All right, gang, welcome back to the rocket project. So we're now in version 4 here. You got your rocket finished. Now let's go ahead. We've grouped them. Now let's go ahead and adjust the color. Now we're going to add a layer, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to make this a purple layer. So let's go ahead and make it kind of a dark purple because, well, space is dark. And I'm going to be in the lower area, so I'm going to go ahead and put that down as purple. And then let's flood fill this bad boy. All right, so we got the rocket and we've got the purple. Now, let's go ahead and position the rocket. We're going to grab the rocket layer. I'm going to grab the transform tool. And now, I'm going to go ahead and move the rocket wherever I need to. Now, why did that just happen? Because we had the rocket underneath the layer. So what we're going to have to do now is go back. Not a big deal. Just refill the layer. All right, now we're rolling. All right, so we put the rocket where we want it. Well, if it's going to be like that, let's go ahead and just fix this. Problem solved, problem stay and solved. We're just going to paint this. We're going to grab the airbrush. We're going to grab it. We're just going to go ahead and paint this bad boy all together. All right, well, if it's going to be a pain in the backside, we'll just take care of that right now. All right. So we're back to positioning the rocket. Remember your rule of thirds in composition? You want the rule of thirds says, and I'm just going to put a layer on here so you can see what I'm illustrating, that you want to divide the screen theoretically into thirds, right? So you want a third here, and you want your interest points to be in these intersection points. It's common in art, it's common in photography. It's one of those general things you learn in art school that you really just don't violate. So we're going to go ahead and position the rocket right about here. Now, in order to make the background, what you're going to do is we're going to add another layer. We're going to bring it down below the rocket. And then we're going to find our Nebula Brush. Now, this is going to be down in the luminance area. We're going to be using a lot of this luminance. And we're going to work in a kind of a pinkish something around this area. So we're going to go ahead and put that into the chart there. All right, we crank this up. We turn this down a little bit. Oops, that's a lot too big. And now we start throwing the luminance portion around everywhere. Now, some of it's large, some of it's small, some of it you press hard, some of it you don't. Okay, see, I'm going to shrink some of this down. Some of it I'm going to move up a little bit. Okay. Now, so we've got some areas here where we've got some luminance. Now, what we're going to look for is I'm going to show you guys how to really do sort of a blaster. Okay, so we've got a background layer. We're going to keep working on the background as we go. But right now, I'm going to show you how to do the blaster. Add another layer. Let's go ahead and rename it. We're going to call it Rocket Blaster. Okay. Put it underneath the spaceship. And now we're going to come over to our luminance brushes. We're going to grab the light brush. And now I've modified my light brush, but we're going to use the stock one here just so you guys can see what's up. Now, when I say I modified it, I'm going to go ahead and crank the max up to this bad boy here, okay? That's really one of my modifications. And then in the stroke, I crank up the taper and I crank down the end taper. Now, this is where I'm going to go ahead and shrink down my workspace just a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a yellowish, kind of an orangish, something big, bold, and bad, right? Because now this is fun time here. And what I want, it's going to begin with a very small taper and swoop out. So we're going to just test this out. Now, I want it to taper a little bit more, so I'm going to go ahead and turn down the size a little bit. Okay, we're going to drop down the size of this bad boy a little bit. But I want a little more taper on that. So a little bit further. We go a little bit further. And now I shrink it down. There we go. Turn down the min. A lot of times with these brushes, you just got to try stuff. Okay. Okay. So once you got that, I'm going to show you a trick. Go ahead and do this. Now select that layer. Let's duplicate it. Okay. Now when we do that, how do we duplicate? We swipe over and we duplicate. Now watch this. It made it super bright and unbearable. Let's use the Gaussian blur for this other layer. Now look at what just immediately happened with your rocket. Okay. Now, if you don't like that and it's a little bit too much, you can always delete it. You can always delete it and you can come back again and you can shoot again. Grab the brush, try the light brush. Now you can even apply Gaussian blur to that layer at the same time if you really wanted to. So you can do it any way you want to do it. I'm going to go back through and I'm going to keep my original because I really liked that bigger, bolder pattern that I had there. All right, so once you've got that, that's how you do the rocket burst. Now, we can go through and I'm going to just go ahead and duplicate it. And then I'm going to apply the Gaussian blur because, quite frankly, I like the look of it. Okay, now that might be a little bit too big, too bold for some of you guys. That's completely fine. Now what we're going to do, we're still working with the luminance brush. Let's go ahead now, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put in a couple pulses. So I'm going to go ahead now, create a new layer, and I'm going to move it down below the background here. And with the pulse brush, I'm going to go ahead and move it up, and I'm going to do kind of an off yellowish type of white here, and let's see what it does for me. All right. Now, how do you adjust that? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adjust the spacing out a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and adjust the spacing out a little. There we go. There we go. A few goes a long way. There we go. Perfect. Now, once I've got the luminance there, this is one of my other tricks. I grab the flare brush. Now I go big, bold white on the flare brush. Now, this one I strike a little bit to the left. And what I'm doing here, I'm trying to get it to align close to the pulse. A little bit of trial and error with this will kind of help you along your way. All right, perfect. Now, let's check out why we did this. We're going to use one more here. I'm coming in with my glimmer. Now, watch what happens with the glimmer now. I'm going 100% full on white. I'm making sure my opacity's up. Got the glimmer brush going on. Okay, now if you don't like it that spaced out, you can certainly come over here, increase the spacing, and make it a little less crazy for you. All right. Now watch this. The power of the blend mode. Look at how each different blend mode changes what's possible. And so this is really just playing around with it, trying to figure out exactly where you want to be with it. I like to really work in a screen type blend mode, but I will occasionally go with a color dodge. So, all right, let's go ahead and stop this video here. We're almost done here, and let's continue on with the background in the next lesson. All right, guys, by now you should have your background beginning to be formed. We worked with the luminance in this one, and next time we're going to start working with the background, shrinking it down and making it a little bit more spacey. All right, we'll see you in the next one.